Watch.
Game on 2FM.
Welcome back to Game On. Marie, it's now time to put the focus onto Leinster's big game against against Lyon. I'm distracted by the Munster matches. I'll be honest, I'm distracted because I'm delighted we're joined by the Tulla Tank, Sean O'Brien. Shawnee, how are you?
Good, Donncha, how are you?
Donncha, you can't get a rugby chat started now with Sean O'Brien without asking him about Dancing with the Stars. You've done it to every other single guest that we have.
Well, Shawnee, you would be a great man on Dancing with the Stars. I think we've learned from Peter Stringer and Tomás O'Leary that it wouldn't be a back. They're not well suited, but I don't think it's right for you with your hip at the moment. How is your injury?
Flying. I could dance for hours if I had to. No, it's really good now at the minute. I'm up and running anyway. The last week or so made a huge step that way, and feeling really, really good. Yeah, feeling really, really good. Rehab's been brilliant, and the transition from Leinster to Irish has been brilliant. And I can't really complain. I'm very happy where I'm at so far. Anyway.
Tell us about that transition. Obviously, you've been in an environment for so long. I've done it myself, but then to go somewhere new, where they're nearly they're all leaning on your every word. Have you found that in London Irish? Are you coming in? You're a big name there that you've been able to drive the standards. Yeah,
well, it's something I suppose it's going to take time to do. I said I knew the challenge, what I was walking into, and I suppose what the coaches wanted me to try and do as well in the environment, and it's a work in progress. You can't go in banging a drum or dictating to people. You have to have conversations and get to know what people are like and what makes them tick, etc. And how to form relationships with them and how to get them to maybe think a certain way about how they're performing in the environment and what they can add to the environment. So that process has certainly started since I came in, and I think some lads are a bit startled by some of the stuff I've said so far, and a bit rattled because they don't really know what to make of me maybe. But
like what, Sean? What kind of things have you said that have rattled them?
I suppose it's a quite group over here, and it always has been from having different conversations with some of the leaders over here. And I suppose accountability is one of the things that we're trying to drive at the minute, and standards, personal standards, to try and make yourself a better player, even if it's by 1%. And I suppose someone new coming in that's not out in the field yet. I'm aware that I'm not out in the field yet, but I've obviously stated that onus is on us at the end of the day. We're professionals. This is what we're paid to do. This is our job, and we have to try and do it to the best of our ability. But I might have said it with a bit more of a tone than that. But yeah, it's definitely different, and where Leinster are now at the minute, it's obviously every club's dream to get to that level, but over in London Irish, it's just different, and it's going to take time to get this group, I suppose, together and singing off the same hymn sheet. But we've showed glimpses of when we get it right and when we know our detail, etc., and train well during the week, that we can cause teams problems. So there's glimpses of what it could be like there at the minute, and that's what we're trying to do, just get better every week now at the minute. And it's a tough competition, the Premiership, very tough.
Yeah, Shawnee, you were so lucky though to be involved in an environment like that, and you nearly take it for granted, don't you? You think that is the standard. Then when, as that happened for me as well, heading to Worcester, when you go over and just being able to, maybe actually verbally put it across that the standards aren't good enough, and it makes you really appreciate what you probably had at home. Have you a greater appreciation for the Leinster environment now?
Absolutely, you do. That was a big eye opener for me, and I suppose when you don't know anything else, like you said, Donncha, it's a part of your DNA when you're at home with Munster, Leinster, and other provinces, and you come into a new environment, then you're like, God, this isn't what I'm used to, or this isn't there's no one driving this part of it, or there's no one driving that part of it. So it is very different. And the first week I kind of had to take a breath and say, hold on a minute now. You know what I mean? You're new in this club, and that's what I mean about having conversations and not going in beating a drum. You're going in there to help people and assist people in trying to get better. And obviously when I get back on the field now in the coming weeks, it'll make that a bit easier, because I can talk to people on the run and put people in where they're meant to be, like, and know other people's roles. So it'll be better when I'm on the field. But yeah, like, I've such a great appreciation for what Leinster has done. Like, but I suppose I even said it today to someone, it's taken them the guts of 12, 13 years to get to this place. Like,
do you miss Leinster, Sean?
Do I miss Leinster? Yeah, like, of course I miss Leinster, but you know what I mean? Who wouldn't want to be there? Do you know the way they're playing rugby and the environment and everything? It's one of the best clubs in the world, sure. So, but I'm really enjoying the lads here and enjoying the challenge, and have settled in well, and I'm happy here now. So, I suppose you learn a lot about life as well, and things move on, and you face different obstacles and environments, etc., and you get used to a place. So it's, everyone probably thought that I wouldn't, I'd never leave Ireland, but like, I'm quite happy here now, and trying to fit in as best I can here with the lads, and they've been very welcoming, and it's actually a nice environment to go into. While it might be frustrating certain things, it's actually a good place to be, and everyone's working as hard as they can at the minute.
Shawnee, obviously there's the rugby side of it, but there's the life experience side of it too. And from Tulla to London, I know it's not, you're like a million miles apart, but it's enough. Just, I remember first time landing into Birmingham Airport and having to get the train down to Worcester. I nearly got lost about 12 times. How are you coping?
Yeah, well, I actually got the first time I was meant to meet the lads one evening in Richmond, and I'm living in Teddington at the minute, and I got on the train. I arrived to the train station, jumped on the train. I was looking at the board, fully sure I was on the right one. And so anyway, by the time I got in to meet the lads and back out, it took me 6 hours, which should have only took me an hour.
I've done it.
Yeah, so that was a last that evening. But
they should have arrows to point which way the trains are going over there.
Yeah.
Two kindred spirits by the sounds of it.
Yeah. I had City Mapper on my phone, but I was so rattled at the time and confused. I didn't even think of using it. So anyway, but that was an eventful evening. But you soon learn over here, and you certainly don't drive very far over here. Anyway, I'm driving the train in the morning and home, and that's really it. Everything else is train and tube and walk, actually. So it's nice though, and the area I'm in here in Teddington is lovely. It's a lovely little town with nice cafes and stuff in it. So it's there's always something going on.
You're lucky you're in, you're at the start of it, Shawnee, but Declan Kidney, Les Kiss, they've brought you in for something differently. I know you led with your actions and being around, which I always love playing with you, but they probably see you now as someone to nurture and bring on the talent like we've spoke about. How have you found dealing with Declan and Les again? Yeah, very good actually. Because I suppose when you're not being coached by a group of people for a long period of time, you wonder have they evolved and changed a little bit, and getting over here and seeing them work and seeing them in their environment again. They've certainly added a few strings to their bows, and they know the challenge that's here too, and they're very open and honest. And I probably go into the office once a day to chat to one of the coaches' name, and Brad Davies is brilliant too, and George Skivington. So they're all working hard. But it is a bit different. But I've enjoyed getting back with those boys, and they are, I suppose they don't mind me. I suppose going to them with different things and trying to and saying, look, can we implement this, or can we, you know what I mean, maybe change train a little bit, etc.
do a different type of a drill for the same purpose they were doing, but it might be just one that could be more effective. I mean, you know, small bits like that, small bits in training and small bits of detail and bits and pieces like that. So they're very open to that, and you know, they've said to me to try and challenge them as best I can as well, you know.
Well, no fair you with that, but just the Premiership in general, Shawnee, we were lucky to play in, you know, the Pro 14 with no relegation, no promotion. It's a tough league, isn't it? It's relentless every week. It's a Munster-Leinster derby game every weekend. Yeah,
that's probably the one thing that I didn't really understand enough about until I got over here and started watching on doing video reviews and stuff of opposition, etc. Like, it really is a battle every week, and there's very little between teams as well. Let's say, obviously, you have the Saracens got the points deducted this year, but like of the Exeter and Saracens and even the Sales and Bats now, etc. They're when they play well, like they're excellent. But you know what I mean. I think someone said last year that you know, 34 or 35 points, like, but the rest of the teams are only like 4 or 5 points ahead out of that relegation battle zone, etc. So it's so close the whole way throughout the league. And, you know, 1 or 2 wins on the bounce could have you up in the top 6, and 1 or 2 losses could have you down at the bottom of the table again. So it is like it's a very close competition, and you know, it is a battle definitely every week, and you know, there's no doubt about that. It's tough going because you've big boys over here as well, and you know what I mean. They go hard, so it's a great competition to watch now that I'm actually involved in it.
Yeah, it's amazing. You get a whole new appreciation from it after you play in it. Just, I know we're going to touch on the Lyon Leinster game coming up, but just because you would know him as well, you've played with Joey Carbery, and you know what it's like to pick up bangs and knocks. Just his mindset at the moment, Shawnee, you know, just when you do injury after injury, how tough it could be for someone like that. How resilient is Joey Carbery?
Yeah, well, that's, I suppose, something he'll find out about himself, I think. You know, from my own experience, you build that over a period of time of getting knocks and getting knocked back a little bit. And, you know, he's been very unlucky. I actually messaged him earlier and just said, keep the faith. You know what I mean? It'll pass, and you know, you'll be back flying in no time. But it's just one of these things that sometimes you get a roll of injuries, and he's had that now. And hopefully now after this one, he gets a bit of a run and gets a few good games under his belt and get a bit of consistency into what he's trying to do. But you know, I know from being in his shoes now, he'll be very frustrated and you know, and upset about. He's definitely out of Six Nations, isn't he?
Yeah. Chatting to Johan van Gran earlier on today, Michael Corkin caught up with him and said it could be a number of months. Yeah. So like that's hugely disappointing for him and Ireland and Munster obviously as well. You know, so but it's just one of these things. Like I always said as well, and I say it to any of the younger guys with injuries, that you can always come back a better player. You can always come back in better shape. You can always come back fitter. You can come back stronger. You can fix little things that might have been creaking on you. You know, so while it's disappointing, there's opportunity to get better. And you know, I'm sure Joey, the way he works, and you know, how committed he is to the game and how professional he is, he'll be back better than ever, hopefully. Yeah, we're lucky enough as well to be joined by BJ Botha. BJ, just another tough break for Joey Carbery, another bad injury.
Donncha, how you doing? Marie, how you, Sean? Yeah, definitely really unlucky, you know, and I suppose that's the nature of the game, really. And as Sean has alluded to already, it's basically this time now that, you know, that resilience is really important, and I suppose pushing on and coming back even stronger and better. And I suppose that's what you aim for as a professional player.
BJ, we always chat to you when it's either about South Africa or Munster, but this week we'd like to put the focus on your time with Lyon. And you spent, was it 2 or 3 years over there? Leinster play them this weekend. They've been disappointing in Europe though, BJ, haven't they?
They were now, and I spent 2 years there, 2 great years, and it opened my eyes really to the top 14 in French rugby, as it is. And I suppose, they're really still in the infancy in European rugby, only really coming from the second division in France, I think probably about 4 years ago. So where they've come from is really a building phase, usually ambitious club. They really want to hit those heights, and it shows through their coach, Pierre Mignoni, and how he's kind of, I suppose, rallied the troops and how they followed their recruitment. But as we've seen with other than probably the top 2, top 3, the Clermonts and the Toulouse sides, we've always seen the French kind of team struggling, specifically in Europe, especially away from home. And I think it's going to be no different this weekend.
Just on that, BJ, do you think it's quite clear their focus is completely on their own domestic league? They didn't really go after Europe this year.
Well, I think they give themselves a chance. I suppose when I was there as well, they were going to Europe the following year and they qualified. They want to give themselves a chance and they see how they go in their first 2 games. Obviously a massive emphasis on the top 14, and we can see where they are in a very strong position, second, just 3 points off Bordeaux. So they're really well cemented there and been holding that position and drifting between 1 and 2. So they don't want to let go of that, and they know what it takes to win in the top 14. You need that squad to be solid. And similarly in Europe, and I think what they've decided to do, and specifically they've only gone 1 win from 4 games. They know now that they have no chance there, and disappointing, and they'll be disappointed with it. And specifically a coach like Pierre Mignoni really emphasizes about being consistent and building on game to game, and especially away games within the top 14 and in Europe. So he'll be disappointed, but I think we'll probably see a different Lyon side out this weekend.
BJ, we've seen what Leinster have been capable of over the last few months. Do you think there are areas that Lyon will be able to challenge them at the weekend?
Hi, Marie. Look, no, I think Leinster are really in full control of that pool and full control of where they're going at the moment. We can see the rugby they're playing, the players they have up for selection, and they really are in position. So I really think it's going to be a long night for Lyon, and I think they will probably see them sending out some of the younger players, and mixing it up with the experienced guys. But I really think it's going to be a long night for them.
Shawnee, that's a dangerous thing to do against Leinster at the moment. We saw even a strong Connacht team being 40 points down at half time. If you send a weakened team to Leinster at the moment, it could really scar your squad, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could. It could indeed. I think just with the way they are at the minute, Leinster are relentless in taking their chances, and I do think Leinster will try and put in a full 80-minute performance this week. Just by listening to some of the stuff Stuart has said during the week, etc. I don't think they're overly happy with the last 2 games, especially the last 20 in the last 2 games. And if that's the case, and if they're revved up and really go after this team, it could be very bad for Lyon. But I think it's going to be a tough night for them, as BJ says. Anyway, but it could be a big European score. If Leinster put out all their big guns this week and play the way they're capable of playing.
Shawnee, when you move away, obviously you still keep in contact, but you become nearly an agony aunt for some of the lads, and they find that they can voice to you. I've no doubt and that's been the case. Who's impressed you at the moment? In a little bit of time away from Leinster at the moment, who have you looking back and watching on thought, wow, they're really stepping up this season?
Yeah, well, I thought Caelan Doris has been in great form. I thought he's matured a lot, I think, as a rugby player, looking at some of the games. And I think he knows his role inside out now within the team. And Max Deegan has been very good. Max played very well last week. But the most impressive thing I think with Leinster at the minute is it doesn't actually matter. They're just 2 individuals for me, and I know they're back rowers, but they've been brilliant. I think Harry Byrne's been brilliant too when he's got chances. And but I think the most impressive thing is the fact that it doesn't matter who's in the team; it just seems seamless. And you had 13 changes last week to the squad, and it looked like it was exactly the first team out there. And I think that's a great place to be now, and I think that's what where they've brought it to now. Where before they might have had a really strong 23, I think now they have a really strong 40. That's scary in a way. They were really, 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 really good players throughout the whole squad.
But Sean, how do you keep 40 players happy?
Well, that's the trick, isn't it? I think that's how Stuart and Leo and the rest of the management staff, everyone has a part to play in that. And I think the way they've rotated things the last few weeks and given lads opportunities, if you get your opportunity and you take it, you're in the shop window. And if you get your opportunity and you don't take it, well, you can't really complain then. So I think that's pushing standards. I think that's why there's so many, so many good players now coming through, because competition is brilliant and people really want to stand up and put their hand up for selection. And the environment, though, is a massive part of that also. Having a really, really good environment, and knowing that if I stay here, one, I can possibly win trophies, and two, I'll develop really well. So that's how you can kind of keep those boys happy.
And Sean, is it enough though for a player to be sitting back looking, thinking, I can develop, I can win trophies? At what stage they want to be the main man, part of that starting team?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, because I always said when I was growing up, you have to do your apprenticeship, and BJ and Donncha know all too well about younger lads coming behind you, and at some stage, you have to kind of, right, you're not the top fella anymore. There's 3 or 4 lads chasing you down here, and they're doing well. So I think as a young fella, at 22, 23, you just have to be patient. And like Sakale in there now, he's starting to come into his own, for instance, and Max as well. So they'll get their chance, and you know what I mean. Eventually, if they kept being rotated, or there was inconsistency there, well, then you look at it as a career thing and go, well, where can I go that I'm going to be playing every single week that's going to put my best foot forward to get selected for the national team going forward, if that's what he wants to do, So, well, at the minute they're getting enough game time to keep the both of them happy, and same with the rest of the boys.
BJ, it was probably your World Cup winning squad that was the first to start maybe rotating and using players in different, over the course of the tournament. But the most important thing is winning, isn't it? As long as players are winning, they're happy.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's important, and it's that whole package. And there's so many variables to it. I suppose winning is definitely probably the most important up there, but there's so many variables about being part of the squad, being that, especially youngsters coming through, I believe you need to be that small fish in that big pond for as long as possible, and then kind of build yourself up there. And I suppose the variables are the sports and conditioning, the strength and conditioning staff, the medical staff that kind of get you back on the field and keep you on the field, So, and that side of things. And we've seen our rugby's just tend to move to the squad, the bigger squads, are really those kind of that strength and depth, and Leinster clearly, shows that.
Yeah, and just on it, Shawnee, now that you're outside and you can look back with, kind of, and take a bit of distance from it, Stuart Lancaster does rightly get an awful lot of credit, but Leo Cullen, just the job he's done with Leinster.
Oh, look, I could talk about Leo for the rest of the night, I think, because it's nearly like the same as when he was a player. You know what I mean? He probably doesn't get the plaudits that he deserves for what he does behind the scenes. Leo's the first one in the morning. He's probably in at 6 o'clock, and the last one to leave there in the evening. And, he has a big job of pulling all that together, all those bits and pieces that we've just spoke about. And like Stuart has been brilliant at bringing him in and coaching and the way he goes about his business. But in the background, Leo's having the tough conversations. His standards himself for what he expects of people is massive. And people kind of forget that he's running that forward pack. You know what I mean? And they're singing at the minute. So it's he's one of those people that doesn't want recognition or want to be in the limelight, but I can assure you Leo does a serious amount of work, and everyone in that whole club and environment has a massive amount of respect for what he does.
So, BJ, if we were to kind of call, not so much for prediction, because I think all four of us would agree this is only going one way, but is it going to be a rout? Leinster versus Lyon?
Yeah, I think it is unfortunately going to be for Lyon. I think Leinster are probably at a stage now, I think Sean mentioned already that, not only that they're going to come out and put a performance, but I think as that scoreboard ticks, they want to continue, scoring, continue, make it tick over. I think that's the most important thing to continue to perform throughout the game, and we'll probably see bits and pieces of the individual, individuals Lyon do have, and there are some dangerous individuals in that side, but I think they'll be more individual compared to the holistic approach from Leinster.
Yeah, and Shawnee, for you, can you, like you're chatting about, and you're right, you're reading the right lines, what Lancaster is saying about an 80 minutes performance. Can you see this being a hammering?
I can see it being a big score, yeah, for a European pool game, absolutely, yeah, 100%. I just think with what they have now coming out this weekend, or whoever they pick, they'll want to put in a big shift this weekend, and especially in RDS in front of a sold-out crowd as well. So, yeah, I think it'll be a big score.
BJ, as always, thanks so much. Shawnee, thanks a million for joining
Welcome.
us. Best of luck
Cheers,
with
BJ.
your recovery.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, Sean.
And
Cheers, guys.
We'll see you on the pitch soon, Shawnee. Mind yourself.
Thanks, Donncha. Cheers.
God bless. We're going to take a break.
Bye.
2FM.